I could come up here and say good morning and nobody would pay attention. And I would suggest that people get their cup of coffee, and they would, but in about 20 or 30 minutes. And it would take literally 15 or 20 minutes to get the crowd seated, get the crowd quiet, and paying attention. And here it is, I've been talking for less than 45 seconds, and everybody's already seated and quiet. And I have a feeling it's not because you're so eager to learn what it is all of our presenters have to say, but it's more or less because we've all gotten a little bit older, a little bit tighter. We just want to sit down and be quiet. So we take a great deal of time preparing for the event, and this morning I woke up with great energy, great anticipation. I'm ready to do this. And you have to get into a certain mindset to be able to stand up here without the safety of the podium. Notice we have no podium to hide behind. Without having a copy of our notes in front of us to give us that fallback position if we lose our place of what we've learned to say mentally. And so I was coming up here with great confidence, think I'm really prepared, until my great friend Mr. Spooner points out, Mark, where's your belt? So clearly, I've started this without being fully prepared. And the only reason why I really point this out, I really had to, is because if you see me going like this, it's because the weight of the mic here is causing my pants to kind of droop a little bit. And it's not that kind of show. It's not a comedy show. And I haven't yet figured out how to rap. You wouldn't want to hear me rap. So welcome to hot and sultry Dallas. And as some of y'all heard me say yesterday, we moved the event from July to June in the hopes that it would be just a temperature or a degree or two cooler from what it was normally in July. And obviously, we failed in that endeavor. So hopefully nobody will get heat stroke out on the golf course. So I'm looking, all right, here's the clicker, so we're ready to go. When we start thinking about the event, and we do this many months in advance, we're always trying to think about what are the key influences of today that are positively or negatively impacting our business that we believe our audience, that you all will want to hear about. And it's not hard to come up with a list of what these influences are. These are top of mind for everybody. What's a little bit more difficult is to come up with, well, what are people doing about these influences? How are they planning for them? And certainly, everybody today is talking about the labor market. We're wondering how will the ups and downs in the financial markets and interest rates impact not only our own outlook on financial well-being, but your customers and cost of capital if you're looking to enter into the capital markets. You're beginning to note that your customers are asking questions a little bit differently or expecting something that you've not yet offered or are not culturally through your staff ready or able to offer. So Greystone's often asked that we look into our crystal ball, and it's what I call our crystal ball syndrome. And that is, there's this hope and there's this expectation that there be one singular best answer out there to your particular situation. And if all we had is a crystal ball, it would tell us what that answer is and life becomes easy. Well, we've had crystal balls in the past, a variety. They never worked. And when they worked, for whatever reason, it was cruel and gave us the wrong answer. So what we've learned over time is that answers are often delivered in if this, then that. Meaning, given what we know today, this is what we think would be a good solution. But today often changes. In fact, it changes every single day. And the environment changes every day. That's why you've got to have a then part of your solution. If this, then that. And that's a little bit how we've constructed our agenda. Number one, and I think this is a very solid takeaway that everybody has, is that in our business, the art of selling to a senior has always been a challenge. Very few seniors wake up, jump out of bed, forget to put their belt on, and decide to go seek out senior living. Now, the fact that they forgot to put their belt on perhaps demonstrates they need it. But just because they need it doesn't mean they're going to seek it out. So, as Greystone's marketing team has always said, it is sold. It is not bought. And there's always headwinds that we have to deal with. And they may be blowing from different directions given the nature of it, but there's always headwinds that we have to deal with. And so all of us in our room, I think one of our bigger challenges is trying to anticipate not only what today's senior expects, what she wants, where her value system is, but more importantly, trying to anticipate where that senior is going, where she's going to be coming from into the future. So it's like, now you can tell I was a big ice hockey player because of my huge physical size growing up. So I've never played hockey, either ice or field, but I understand the purpose of being out there and trying to anticipate where that puck or ball is going to go. So we would hope that as a part of our agenda and as part of our discussions, that not only we're finding the balls here, but given the lay of the ground, given the lay of where the game's going, we anticipate it going over here. So we're trying to get you all over here to where we think that puck may be going. And that's what a lot of the discussion will be, because our consumers don't move in gracious curves. It is a very nonlinear line. And our job is to try and figure out how can we best meet them. We must skate. We must anticipate. And that means making a lot of guesses. Hopefully they're encouraged guesses. As we look at the environment that we're in, it's real easy, as I had on the first page, to look at all of the headwinds. There are some great positives nonetheless that we must acknowledge. And we've all heard about the silver tsunami. We all know that tomorrow there will be more seniors, excuse me, than we have today. Something less better known is the fact that, notwithstanding what you read, notwithstanding what's thrust at you through social media, seniors economically today are better off than what all of the analysis, what all the forecasts, and what all the projections indicated they would be. So the market demographically is stronger. And Christy Caverts will be speaking more about this in her presentation. So this is a market that we're in today. Christy will tell you more about it. And we updated our demographic numbers in part because we were having issues with construction costs. And we're always looking for, well, okay, not that we want to, but can we go back and ask the seniors to pay a little bit more? So we updated all of our market work, all of our economic metrics and so forth. And this is what we found, that there were more people that had incomes of a certain amount than what the analysis just 2 years previous said would be out there. Substantially more. Now, will that continue? Will that wealth effect, will that continue if we do go into recession? I don't know, but we're starting from a good place. That there are significantly more aged, income-qualified seniors out there than what pre-pandemic estimates would have led us to believe. So that's a good foundation that we have. But that doesn't at all mitigate or dilute the challenge of having to market to the senior. Okay. Oftentimes people will say, well, gee, why should we invest our time to come to the Greystone event. You know, yeah, I hear some things, but there's really nothing that new or that dramatic. I like to believe that one of the reasons why is simply because we happen to have what we call a good real-time learning laboratory on what's happening in senior living. And that comes to us through our work that we're doing with the clients in this room and the fine professionals that we have. So just this year, we're learning from the experience of having to open 9 different communities, either greenfields, where we're having to create the whole administrative function and hire a lot of people. So what you may hear from a variety of presentations, that's based upon opening and having to staff 9 new communities. I don't think anybody else in the country is doing that, at least on the not-for-profit side. So there's real value in that experience, and we'll be sharing that with you all. How did we recruit? How did we pay? What are we doing to retain? What are we doing to explain to people why we're 5 months late because the construction side was light? So all that's good information we'd like to believe that you'll be hearing. In addition to how our clients preparing for and responding to a more competitive environment, rising interest rates, consumer behavior. So we're fashioning our agenda around all of these matters. And once I finish this introduction, John Spooner, my longtime friend and co-CEO, will share with us once again where we think the consumer, where she is skating to. And it is very different, and it's going to be coming very different in a faster pace. So that's where we have to understand where the puck will be. Christy and Terry Locke will share with us, Terry, through what is she hearing from the consumer? What's our marketing office sharing about why they're buying in this marketplace? And how do we adapt, and how should we adapt our marketing strategies? And Christy will share more about, okay, we got a little bit to work with a stronger market. So that's good to hear. Following Christy and Terry, Alan Courier will be speaking with Stuart Jackson, and Alan will be sharing about his growth plan up in the Pacific Northwest. Subject to Stuart's agreeing to Alan's speaking fee. I don't know, Alan, if Stuart signed that. No, okay. So, all right. So we'll see. We'll see. And then we have Tim Mallett, who is the CEO of Forefront. And Tim and I have had the joy of working together for a very, very long time. And Tim, right now, his organization had a group of bondholders in Dallas yesterday to learn more about the fabulous new startup that he's undertaking in North Dallas and Plano, going to be a several $100 million startup that's going to reset the stage for senior housing here in Texas. But that's not the only thing he's doing. His organization will continue to grow and expand, and Tim, you'll talk about the other markets that you're looking to grow and expand into. At the same time, he's opening up a substantial number of new apartments on one of his older campuses and dealing with that, and then learning about what is he going to do next to complete the complete renovation of a campus, of his flagship campus. So a lot of good stuff you'll hear from Tim and Alan and Stuart. So this year, we think a lot about how do we learn from those activities that have occurred at the campus level during the pandemic. Number one, we see as a result of that, plus other factors, a shift occurring in the continuum of care. And two of our great operations people will be sharing their thoughts, Sue Plaster and Andrew Leach, about the redefinition of the continuum of care. Yesterday we gathered with a group of some of the CEOs and board members for a casual conversation. And it was interesting how quickly the conversation moved to, this was not planned, but moved to, what are you doing about healthcare on your campus? And there were really two very different camps. The majority were, how do we consolidate? How do we do less? But there were some others who were saying, okay, as the other providers exit the marketplace, that leaves me a market opportunity. So, and I'm very comfortable with nursing and I can make money out of it in my environment, so they're almost doubling down. So you'll hear from Sue and Andrew about how we see the continuum of care moving, changing, and adapting. Then on Friday, presuming you don't party too hard this evening, and there's less and less of that going on too these years. So we start off again with another panel type discussion with Brad moderating a conversation with Justine Vogel from the Riverwoods Group and Maria Timberlake from John Knox Village. Two great organizations. John Knox Village, as you know, is one of the larger single-site providers in the country. And Maria will share those vast numbers. It really has become a campus with different product on a very large campus. So it's a multiple of settings on one campus that's working together in a great complementary way. And Justine has expanded aggressively. Y'all may remember that pre-Great Recession, Justine's board and Justine were dealing with, okay, we're just about to start start construction on a brand new project as Lehman Brothers was truly falling apart. And so she had to have the conversation, do we continue or not? And Justine, being the leader that she is and the board being responsive, said, yes, let's continue on. And I think Justine would say one of the best decisions that she and her board have ever made because of the great successes that they've had since then with that particular project and others that have followed. So you'll hear more about her success story, but also the challenges of the state coming in and saying, you know what, it's great you got this brand new community, and it's great that you've got all this health care, but you know what, we're not going to let you open it because we may need to require you to take COVID patients into your brand new health center, just as an overflow. So a great story that you'll be hearing from those organizations. Bringing it back to the community level, and if you look at your on-site program, normally we have it full of a lot of pretty pictures of the communities that we help to bring about. This year we thought it appropriate, and maybe we'll continue. This year it's a picture of the people that actually make those communities be the community that they are. And it's our thanks to these frontline workers that through their perseverance, through their ingenuity and innovation and passion for residents that allowed a lot of these communities to thrive, not easily, but to thrive during the pandemic. So Justin Spooner, Mel Barber will lead a conversation with three project executive directors or CEOs on how did they live through the pandemic. What did they learn such that they're taking that body of knowledge and applying it into the future? So we have Christy Baird from Stevenson Oaks, that literally just opened up in the last several months. Diane Gouen, who has been, I think, Diane, you probably represent one of the longest client relationships that Greystone has had, because I think we started working together on Edgewood Summit when I was like 12 years old. Now wait, that was only 5 years ago. How that organization has grown and changed over the years. And then finally, with Sergio and a community in Kansas City, Kingswood. This one is a very different story. Greystone's known for developing new projects. We're known for managing and starting up new projects. We also are doing more and more project turnarounds, troubled project consulting. And here we got a call from our fine friends from RBC, who's represented here in the audience today, saying, we have a troubled credit. We have a management company that is deciding to probably exit. Would Greystone be willing and able to come in and pick up the reins and help this community that's struggling? And we said, yes, we're interested. So Rob and Dave Fields and others took that information. Then they called back and say, okay, how quickly can you be on site? And we said, well, it generally takes us about 30 days. No. Can you start management services within a week? Okay? For a troubled community. That's tough. But we said yes. And I think we came in, and I think we've created a lot of good, and you'll hear more about that from Sergio. So we don't shy away from the hard stuff. Speaking of the hard stuff, in keeping a thought about how we continue to do good at the project level, one of the most difficult things that our team's dealing with today, among a variety of challenges, how do we deal with this inflationary environment? The increases in wage rates are eye-popping. They really are. And they're occurring quickly. And a lot of organizations are finding themselves, oh my gosh, how do we, to maintain the bottom line, which is a real important challenge, maintain the bottom line but not raise rates so much that it scares new prospects from moving in. How do you balance increasing revenues with your increasing costs? So Jim Knox, who runs our management group and is a real expert in financial management services, will be speaking with Mindy Cheek about how are we doing that, and how has the resident and how's the market responding to what's now going to be much higher rate increases and maybe more than once a year rate increases. But then you got to balance that with the outside message as you try to sell to new consumers. So that'll be interesting. Yes, we are still starting new projects. Now, the approach to those new projects, the design is changing. How we're defining success in design is changing. So I'm real excited to have two newer Greystone people share their thoughts about that, but we're going to have Bud up here just to balance out the wisdom part of it with their wonderful thoughts on innovation. So we have Mallory and Heather that will be speaking about what is it that we're seeing differently from the design side, from the space planning side, and so forth. And Bud will provide his, I was going to say fatherly advice, but that's wrong. That's wrong. That's wrong. But you'll see some new concepts that we're chasing on the design and the development side. And then we're going to wrap it up with one of the more important stories that we have. I started off with Greystone, marketing, the sale of the senior. It's more sold than bought. So we have, over the last several years, not invested significantly in more training with the marketing team and the marketing staff because it's a different and changing world out there that they're marketing in. So we're going to wrap up with Mary Jane Fitz and Tricia Mack and talking about how we would recommend you think about making sure that your sales team is trained out and trained up in the best way possible to do the best job they can in an ever-changing marketplace. So these are all of the event conversation topics. You'll notice that we have the three chairs here, in that we're trying to move the event to be more of a, rather than stand up stiffly and present 112 PowerPoint slides that nobody can actually read. What we've learned is the real value is the conversation among people about what are you really doing and what are you really learning. And that oftentimes is best distilled down into 1, 2, or 3 comments, not 25 PowerPoint slides. So you'll see more of a casual conversation, and they may even ask for some audience participation. This year, we have about 200 people in the room, not the biggest event that we've ever had, yet the room looks full. And we have some new organizations that we're very pleased to be here today. So we're starting once again to see some building momentum of change and excitement even in this room with new organizations that have said, you know, I don't want to be a caretaker organization. I know we need to change, but I'm not quite sure how we should change. So there's going to be a lot of discussion during all of the topics about strategic thinking or strategic reengineering. Right now, Greystone's planning team is rather busy because we're actually doing, I think, Brad or Stuart, a record number of strategic plans for organizations that even if they have a strategic plan, they realize if it's more than 2 or 3 years old, it's completely out of date because the world is very different. And so we're helping them go through those anticipatory questions, simple questions, but very difficult to get to the right answers of what, where, when, how much. And there really is, as I said earlier, no one singular answer. It depends a great deal on the culture and the resources and the mission of the underlying organization. But each of those organizations realizes that we have to help them. They have to figure out where's that start button? What do they do next? Because unless you're prepared to press that start button, you're standing there idle. And we all know what that leads to. And we know that we can't look backwards and say, this is what's worked well for us in the past. And maybe it will continue to work well into the future, but you cannot just rely upon those successful strategies that served you well in the past. We have to adapt and change into a new marketplace. The real value of this is that it forces the organization to first ask and then answer the hard questions that maybe you've been ignoring or didn't want to ask about. What do you do about turnover? What do you do about succession planning? What do you do about an aging resident population, and how do you attract a younger senior? What do you do to your program and your physical plant? So we're busy with strategic planning, and it's all geared towards trying to get to specific recommendations and answers on the questions here about your pricing, about your branding, about the geographic markets that you're serving, about your program of services, looking differently at how you define and measure success, because you can't only apply the metrics and the paradigms that worked well in the past. What is it that we think the consumer, what's she going to want that you're not currently providing? How do we mix technology in with all of this? What is the right pace of change? And the questions go on and on and on, but we're working with a fair number of organizations in this room right now to help you answer these questions so that you're able to hit the start button. I'm going to close out with just a little bit of an infomercial on Greystone. Many of you all have known us for many years, but for some, this is the first time to be in this room. Here, I am giving away my age because Greystone's been in business and the reason for the balloons here are 40 years of service to you all. So I would like to start a round of applause to the Greystone team here for sticking it out with me and John for 40 years. So thank you all. And with the pace of change that we're seeing, I can hardly wait to hear about, because I won't be here in 40 years, but to hear about what Greystone has evolved and come to in the next 40 years. And really, as you all know, Greystone, we're not owner-operators of communities. We've chosen to be an advisor, a consultant, to help you all move your mission along in a way that will help you provide the best resident experience with the most financial stability as you possibly can. We're a small company, we're employee-owned, and I think that we're going to keep it that way for quite some time to come. So finally, as we move on into the execution of today, if you haven't already found it, the Wi-Fi password is on the screen, and I believe it was on placards on the table. When I first walked in last night to check the room out, and I've gotten to the point where I need to wear reading glasses so I don't see too clearly. So I saw what I thought were name cards. I thought, oh gosh, so are we going to have assigned seating? So I put the glasses on, and unless everybody's name is Event 22, no, it's not assigned seating for that. So after this morning's session, we're all going to disperse and go off for our activities. If you're going on the tour, Tori, the bus will be in the porte cochere right out this way, right? At 1 o'clock. If you had not previously signed up for the tour, I believe we have plenty of room if people would like to participate for that. And we'll be seeing some wonderful assets. And Tim, I think you're even going to be hosting some. Oh, look, he stepped out. So since he's not in the room, Tim is actually going to be hosting a cocktail party, I believe, for everybody, and he'll be giving away free life care agreements. So you want to be able to do that. Dinner at 7 in the pavilion, and Tori, what have I forgotten about? Cindy, anything I've forgotten about? That's it? Okay. We have a counter here, and I'm supposed to be done in, no, this is actually, I've already gone over by 30 seconds. So with that, thank you all. I'll turn over to my good friend, John Sponer, and I always enjoy hearing what he has to say. John?
Good job.